All right, welcome back to the TCI studio. Today was one of my favorite days of the year, Will. January, we always have this great holiday. It's called Clemson Football Schedule Day.
Yeah.
So we knew what the schedule was, but we didn't know the order, the dates. We didn't know if we were going to have a Friday night game or a Thursday night game. We already knew, as we reported a couple of weeks ago, that unfortunately Clemson was going to go to play South Carolina in Columbia, which I still don't agree with.
Yep.
But that's a different thing. We're going to talk in this segment here about the schedule, how things lay out. Obviously, we knew the first week of the schedule, Georgia. We obviously know that's probably the game that may decide whether Clemson makes the college football playoff or not.
It is. It's funny, first of all, you said that it felt like a holiday because when I was a kid growing up, schedule day was a holiday for me. I always loved it when the new schedule would come out because it would just get me excited for football season again. So that's just kind of funny that you said it that way. So, but yeah, Clemson starts against Georgia, and that's a huge game in the sense of this is Clemson's mulligan game, if you will, because I don't know, me and you talked about this, Robert. If Clemson were to lose this game and then run the table, does Clemson make the college football playoff? Because let's go back. The ACC finished the year horribly, going 0-6 in bowl games, including Clemson's loss in the college football playoff. The reputation out there on the ACC is not very good right now. And so the conference and Clemson need to get off to a good start. Maybe we know Miami isn't going to beat Alabama. That's not happening. But there is another non-conference game with ACC and SEC ties. The ACC needs to win that, and then Clemson needs to beat Georgia. This is a must-win. I hate to say the first game of the season is a must-win,
It is.
but it really is for Clemson if they want to make the college football playoff.
If you want to be sure you're going to be in the playoff, you win that first one, you're going to be there as long as you win the ACC. If you lose that first one, as you said, they've lost some of the brownie points, whatever you want to call it, respect, I guess is the better word, that they built up over that 6-year playoff run, getting beat pretty handily 2 years in a row in your last playoff game. As you said, the league doesn't have a lot of respect right now. A lot of folks the last couple of years, national media loves to talk about Clemson's schedule and how they don't play anybody.
Love to hammer them.
You don't want to be in that position where you've got to run the table and you got to have things go the right way. You beat Georgia, you win the ACC, there's none of that talk.
Yeah, and it's always funny, and the fans say this on the board, a lot, when they talk about, South Carolina fans will go and start criticizing Clemson. And I love Clemson fans will come back and say, yeah, part of the reason our schedule sucks is because you're on it. Which is true. So it's like,
win South Carolina?
Yeah, so if you're a South Carolina fan, wouldn't you want to just go ahead and start saying Clemson does play some pretty good non-conference opponents because you're kind of taking a dig at your own self. So South Carolina hurts Clemson. And so when you play Georgia, that's great, right? And that's a great thing, but then it's like, okay, well, who else? And the media looks at this. I'm going by what the media is looking at, the national media, and they'll look at the rest of Clemson's schedule and they'll say, well, yeah, they play Georgia, but then they play nobody else. Well, that also includes you, South Carolina fan, when they say that. Because, when you look at the schedule for Clemson, the Tigers, I'm saying it right now, what are we, January 28th?
28th.
Clemson's going undefeated after that Georgia game. So whatever happens to that Georgia game, if Clemson wins it, then they're undefeated. I'm telling you that right now. They're not. There's no game in there where I think Clemson could slip up and lose. Not at all.
The flip side of that, Georgia they may have a chance. This may be their year to have a shot at doing something special. So they're going to be right up there at top of the SEC, right up there with Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a quarterback that did some things this year. They've obviously got a great defense. So they're probably going to be a top 5 team. So if you're Clemson,
Exactly.
You beat them, you run the table, you're there. Let's talk about the rest of the schedule. Obviously, the fans, everybody sees, oh my gosh, Friday night game in Syracuse. I don't like that. We actually like that. Been there before for that. Works out great for us. Bart doesn't like it because Bart would like to. They have this thing called an airplane that some people travel in.
What's that?
We do this thing called a car, although I know Cadillac's building a car that will fly, apparently. But we like to drive up there.
The Jetsons are happening?
Yes, it's happening.
Oh my gosh.
But Friday game is great for us because we can travel halfway back on Saturday, stop somewhere, watch games all day, finish the trip on Sunday. We're back for the normal game week. So a lot of the fans won't like the Friday night. A lot of the high school, interferes with a lot of that stuff. But that's probably one of the big things out of the schedule announcement today.
Yeah, it is. And I would say that one, and because if you look at the schedule, they go, it's after the open date, and then they go to Syracuse on a Friday night. And then the very next week, they're going back to the Northeast, and they're playing Pittsburgh. Obviously, I'm happy about that trip.
Should we take Will?
I think I'm going to go to Syracuse, and then I'm going to stay in Syracuse that week and just do all my stuff up there. I'll tell Brian and them to Zoom it. That way I can make sure I get all the interviews. But no, but from a fan's perspective, I can understand why fans are disappointed. First of all, Clemson fans, most Clemson fans are from the state of South Carolina or the South. And what's going on Friday nights in the South? High school football. And Clemson fans still get upset about it, and I understand it because I don't like it either, to be honest with you, as a guy who covered high school football for many years. That's kind of their night, and it kind of sucks that college football is now starting to step on their toes. And so here comes Clemson, who's the big kahuna in the state of South Carolina, and everybody's going to want to watch them, but yet there's going to be high school games all over the state going on that night, especially in the middle of October. That's going to be right in the middle of their region seasons for high schools. And so I think a lot of fans, Robert, are disappointed from that standpoint because it forces them to have to make a choice. Do I go watch Clemson football or do I go support the local high school? And that's why I know Dabo's not a big fan of it either for the same reason.
Well, Dabo can't fly back to watch his son play that day either.
That's right.
Coach Spearman can't come back to see his son play.
Exactly. They're both playing on that Friday night. So, and Daniel's defending state champions. I'm sure they'll have another good team again this year. So, yeah, they're disappointed by it. But you know what? They can only do what television and the ACC does. So they got no real say in the matter. And what's the rule? They have to do it like every 4 years. They have to play a Friday night and a Thursday night game, stuff like that.
All right. Will asked me earlier when the schedule came out, he was like, oh, man, what about that second game? Like I wouldn't be excited. I said, I actually will be excited for that game. South Carolina State?
South Carolina State, yeah.
First home game. It's South Carolina State, but if it's back to normal and Bart and I can be roaming the sidelines, you and somebody from TCI can be in the press box, we got a full Death Valley, I'll be thrilled for that day just because of what we've had to go through with COVID this year. So, and I think the fans, they'll be able to come back and tailgate. So I think there'll be a ton of excitement for that first game.
It might be the most excited Clemson fans will ever be for the South Carolina State Clemson game. Because remember, Clemson's average margin of victory in this game is like 60 points. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's like 70-3 one year, it was 63-3 another year. I think it was 57-3 another year. I mean, it's been pretty bad every time they played the Bulldogs, and this one will be just the same. However, there'll be some excitement for it, I think, because with what's gone on with COVID and this pandemic, fans not being able to go to the games, only 18,000 last year. Like you said, people kind of Clemson football is used for family reunions, right? And so they haven't seen members of their family or close friends in over a year now, and so I think they're going to be anxious, like you said, to get back in the Valley, to tailgate, to strike up the barbecue, if you will, and just enjoy being together and hugging people. Because, man, let's be honest, we didn't be able to shake hands or hug anybody. Bart ain't hugged his wife in I don't know how long. And it's like, it's been bad. So I think people are just anxious to get back, and it'll be a packed Death Valley. It'll be high-fiving everywhere. Clemson will win by 100 points, but fans will love it. And I think they'll stay the whole time.
Will, all the things we could talk about with the game, Will's over here talking about hugging people. Come on, Will. Oh, you drink your beer, you have your barbecue, whatever. But the last thing I'm thinking about is, I can go hug somebody. But okay.
That's just me, man.
That's Will.
I like to hug people, so I'm a hugger.
All right, first ACC game is a home game.
Yep, Georgia Tech. Third year in a row, Clemson and Georgia Tech will open up the ACC football season. For each other, that is. It's interesting. I don't know why it's always Georgia Tech. I don't know if it's just coincidence and it just happens, but it seems like every year now the ACC just wants to start Clemson with the Yellow Jackets. It's a good rivalry. I guess it kind of makes sense because, they're so close in proximity. There is history there between the two. There is bad blood, if you will. Not lately from on the playing field because Clemson has owned this rivalry the last 6 years, but I don't see that changing this year either. But, the Tigers opened it up September 18th in the Valley. First home opener, first ACC opener. First ACC home opener.
Perfect segue. Bad blood. The game I think most fans are going to be looking forward to the most this year, home game, is going to be the Florida State game. Speaking of bad blood, Will's already said he thinks Clemson's going to win like 80-3 or something. There's going to be bad blood, and Dabo will not call the dogs off on that one, right?
Yeah, remember 56-7 a few years ago? And there was some blood there, and Dabo kind of let it happen, right? Because there were some things that they wanted to win that game the way they did, and there was some blood there. And so blood's in the water with Florida State, and Dabo ain't happy. And usually when Dabo doesn't want to run the score up on nobody generally, except if you make him mad. And so when go ahead, I don't know if any national media guys will remember this or not that I'm saying this, but mark this day down. I'm telling you now, when it's middle of the fourth quarter, number 5 is still in the game, and he's gone back and thrown a 70-yard pass against the Seminoles, and they're up by 50. This is why, because of what happened last year in Tallahassee. You know what? I'm going to be glad he did too, because you know what? Florida State made me mad too, because I drove all the way to Tallahassee for nothing that day. And Robert called me.
He was on the way to the stadium.
I was on the way to the stadium when Robert called me.
Yeah,
He
what
said,
are you doing?
Hey, what are you doing? You're not going to the stadium, are you? I said, yeah. He's like, well, turn around. I'm like, what? What do you mean? He's like, they just postponed it. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And like, I was so mad. He'll tell you, I was mad. I could not believe it. We even joked about it going the week before. So I'm with Dabo, man. Run the score up, because I know those guys down in Tallahassee. I'm just going ahead and say it. I don't care. They freaking did that intentionally. They knew what they were doing. And that thing was totally, Dabo had every right to be mad. Let me just tell you that. He had every right to be mad. And I know the media is going to forget about it next year.
Oh, no.
But Dabo's going to remind them of it. And it's going to definitely be reminded when late in the fourth quarter, Clemson's still throwing that football around and scoring. They're not happy with the Seminoles. That rivalry has now taken up another notch. It's always kind of been everybody kind of liked each other in a way kind of rivalry. It's going to be up there with Georgia, South Carolina. Now it's going to be up in that bad blood, NC State, if you will, kind of thing. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, the other nice thing about the schedule, which we've seen recently as well, is your last home game before you have to go to South Carolina. And again, having to go to South Carolina still bugs me a lot.
Me too.
You got Wake
That's
Forest
a whole other subject. We can do a whole video on that.
It is. We could do a 2-hour video. But you got Wake Forest, final home game, senior day, all that good stuff before you go on the road. South Carolina actually has Auburn the week before they play South Carolina, so they don't have a patsy this year before the Tigers. And I think that's another game where, I won't say bad blood, but another game because of what went down last year. I'm not sure Dabo calls the dogs off as quick in Columbia as he might normally do either.
I don't think anybody's going to be mad, right? if Dabo keeps it going. The only thing is, though, I think Dabo does have a good relationship with Mr. Beamer down there. I think they go back and they had some pretty good, I don't think they've been close friends, but I don't think there's any bad blood there between him and Beamer. So we'll see what it's like. But that rivalry, you know how I am about that rivalry. That rivalry to me is like the Super Bowl to me. I'm from South Carolina. I love that game. I've written about that game. And so, yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see Clemson and play that game knowing that they got robbed out of the game last year. Dabo's kind of said his own little shots at the SEC and them here and there about them taking that game away. And so he's going to be fired up for that one. And you're right, they might come out there with them orange pants on and ready to just kind of take it to South Carolina like LaVon Kirkland and those guys did in 1989 when they first wore the orange pants in Columbia.
Yes, I knew that.
45-0 I think a lot of Clemson fans remember that. That was a great one.
All right, guys, as you can tell, we're excited. The schedule is out. Football is just around the corner. We'll be getting spring practice going here soon. We don't know what the coverage will be. My guess is we know that answer. But at some point, hopefully we get through all the COVID stuff. When this season kicks off against Georgia in Charlotte, hopefully we're back in our normal roles and the fans are back in their seats and we get back to a normal college football season. But a lot more headed your way from the TCI studio. Stay tuned to the Clemson Insider for the most complete coverage of Clemson athletics and recruiting.